Right, more appropriate probably now. Item number 6, extension of contract, road maintenance and resealing.
Your Worship,
You're still there?
I'm excuse me.
You better have a drink.
I'm starting to sound like a broken record again. This is an extension, seeking an extension of the road maintenance contract. This is the first year of a 3+1+1 contract. We are also seeking an additional funding for this year and increasing the contract value for that 1 year extension.
Councillor Park?
Yes, thank you. I just, I had a brief discussion with Mr. Menhenant about this, but the first part of the resolution is an increase of 750k plus GST for a 3-year period, which is to end very shortly, so it's a retrospective amount on an already approved contract.
It's not retrospective, but it will cover the period from March through to June.
Right. So is that unbudgeted monies? You're
No.
asking for an unbudgeted?
No, it's not unbudgeted money. It's all within the budget. Essentially what it is, that when the contract was written, the schedule of quantities, we try and assess how much dig outs we're going to need to do, how many mowings we're going to need to do, how many edge marker posts we need to replace, and we've got it a little bit wrong to the tune of about 250,000 a year. And so the cumulative effect of that is that the contract, we need an extra 750, but it's within the budget.
So is anything else going to miss out? Because
No,
so we're just lucky that you have such a huge buffer in your budgets.
it's not a huge buffer.
Sorry, that's all. It's more of a comment than a question. Thank you.
Just to give councillors some comfort, because I knew this sort of question would arise. The cost to the Taupo, the cost to maintain roads within the Taupo District Council is in the order of 2,500 to 2,800 per lane kilometre. So that's, there's a reason why a lane kilometre, because that's how NZTA measure it.
Yeah.
In the Waikato and the Bay of Plenty, the cost per lane kilometre is in the order of 4,800 to 5,500 for authorities of our size. So we are maintaining roads for anywhere from $2,000 to $3,000 per lane kilometre, so that's half the width of the road, cheaper than anyone else.
Okay. Can I just add to that? Usually, like with the second part of the resolution about the 2.75, when 50% of that you go out for bulk, but it's 50% would be NZTA subsidised.
Correct.
Is that 750?
Correct.
You'll be expecting 300 odd back.
All of the road maintenance budget that is spent is 50% subsidised through NZTA.
Okay, thank you.
It's just a question of Higgins contractors, so they've been sold, correct?
That's correct, they have, to Fletcher.
You foresee no change in...
No, there has been no change. They intend to retain Higgins as a brand, specialising in the road maintenance, road construction area.
Councillor Hickling?
I realise this is really quite a sizable contract, Dennis, because it covers all the district transportation routes. But I have difficulty in justifying this increase on the extension of this contract. I really do. 2.75 million is a lot of extension. And I read through the contract, the actual document, and you do talk about, 5 or 6 items there that are perhaps are identified as areas which you may have been a little bit short in the original contract. But can you give us a little bit more justification? Because, I mean, cost of living is only like, what, 3%? I don't know. Whereas this increase is far greater than that. How much more work are you allowing to be done for this extra money that we're going to approve?
The increase is not for escalation. It's not tied to the cost of living or cost escalations. It is purely the amount of work that is required to be done. I tried to demonstrate earlier with those costs per lane kilometre to give councillors some comfort that our costs weren't, in fact, they're the opposite.
Yes,
We probably should be spending more money rather than less money. The work is related, a lot of the work in the pavement maintenance is related to how the pavement reacts to weather conditions. Councillors probably recall when we had the meeting at Mangakino, there was a lot of roadworks occurring on Puipi Road. There were significant areas that were under reconstruction, which were done as part of maintenance because we'd been delaying doing that work. It's those sorts of things. There's been a lot of work done out on Broadlands Road in the last 12 months where pavement is starting to fail. We need to be able to react to those sorts of things. This is actually doing work on the road rather than, as I said, cost escalations.
Through the chair, we've also got a lot more road.
I appreciate the amount of work there is in this contract, but just uncomfortable with the increase.
It is a large contract because it covers the 750 kilometres of roads in this contract. And by the nature of that, that's a large amount of work.
Yes, yeah, true.
It's got all of the reseals in this contract. We bundled the road maintenance and the reseals together for some efficiencies, and we're seeing those efficiencies.
Councillor Krastowski.
Yeah, thank you. Tongue in cheek. Does that imply that we have underspent on road maintenance in the past few years?
No, it doesn't. What it means is that we are responding to the condition of the roads as they occur. So it's a just-in-time response. What we are investing in over the next 2 or 3 months is some pavement modelling so that we can more accurately predict what our forward work program should be, and that should give us a greater ability to forecast when we draw up these contracts what the forward works program is going to look like, so we can more accurately forecast into the contract or into the tenders the quantities that are required.
One of the pushes on a regional basis driven by NZTA is the fact that, or the perception, whether it's true or not, we're still working through, whether the perception is true that we invest in our roads sooner than we should do. And so sweating the asset is a very popular term in the roading area at the moment. And RATA, which is the Roading Advisory Technical Roading Advisory Technical Alliance, which forms all of the councils of the Waikato, apart from a couple, is looking at those very issues in terms of if we sweat the asset for 10% longer, does that mean that we will invest later and therefore save potentially, if you can imagine the size of this budget and extend it across the Waikato, you could save tens if not hundreds of millions of dollars in terms of making those investments at a later time. From a Taupo perspective, we're aligning with the work that's being done through RATA to double check that what we're doing is correct. But as Dennis has already alluded to the fact that we are right at the bottom end of the costs per kilometre in terms of our maintenance, but we're still working with the regional partners to make sure that even though we're at the bottom, that we're still not investing too soon. And when we try not to invest too soon, obviously there are periods where we do have to invest more than we'd possibly expect because road conditions dictate that we've left them to the point where they do actually need to be done. And I think there's a bit of this going on, is there, Dennis?
That's correct.
So,
Councillor Harvey, it's your moment.
okay, well, what I'm suggesting is that we just change all that. So, I mean, obviously everyone's pretty aware of, and maybe it's underway, but the fact that traffic coming in and out of Taupo is now pretty an increased rate. Do we have any plans on the horizon for extending Control Gates Bridge and widening that piece of road?
Currently, there is nothing in the long-term plan for second bridge crossings or...
Not talking about a second bridge. I can see how it could be done. I've got it in my head.
How much was it for that second bridge crossing, Dennis?
Between 25 and 30 million.
Yeah, 25 to 30 million. I had a conversation about this the other day, and it was generated out of some letters to the paper or whatever other forms of conversation that we had. And in that conversation, I suggested that before we were to invest that sort of money, we actually built our second bridge crossing with the ETA, and so we do have the ability to divert traffic around if we do get congestion in one particular point. I totally understand what you're saying. So, for example, where we do have a lot of external traffic comes along Lake Terrace, whether there's an opportunity for some signage like you get in Auckland with 10 minutes to Green Lane or 15 minutes to Dominion Road, whether if that was located out on the ETA, it would actually give you options of getting into Taupo in a different way. So rather than 30 minutes into Taupo this way, it'll tell you it's 5 minutes into Taupo if you go past Delaney Park.
There's people that live out in Marlborough Valley, and that's growing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Nothing to do with that.
I think you probably find it would do if we got that external traffic coming into Taupo down a different route than Lake Terrace. But it is a discussion to have. The important thing is we've got to remember that we're talking about a $25 to $30 million investment in that crossing that we did remove because we're a long way from having bad congestion other than two or 3 weeks of the year.
I'm actually suggesting, and I know it's obviously engineer, I'm not an engineer, has anyone looked at actually just extending the actual bridge that's there? Like there's a pedestrian crossing on both sides?
It's called a clip-on, yeah.
Yeah. Has anyone suggested doing that on the other side where there's another crossing? And because there's room for another lane to go around that side.
It has been looked at. The most practical option is in the order of $25 to $30 million. And that wouldn't attract any NZTA funding. That would have to be fully funded at council's cost.
Okay,
it's,
Councillor Harvey, but the time and place for that is to discuss that probably long-term plan?
That's right.
Yeah, so hold that thought.
It's going to have to be addressed at some point.
And you come in a little bit earlier to work, perhaps 7 o'clock in the morning.
I
Yeah.
have no vision.
5 minutes.
Come on.
I know.
Sorry.
$1 million.
Limit it.
All right. Okay, thanks very much, Dennis. Mr. Chairman. Oh, sorry. We've got
I've
some
only
more.
got one other
Some more?
concern, Your Worship, is the fact that this has still got another right of renewal for another 12 months after this, so this time next year. You know, any ideas where this contract price might finish?
What we could do is keep an eye on what contracts are being awarded across the Waikato to give you an indication of how prices are moving. I think we do that, and I think it might be worthwhile sharing whatever information we have in that regard.
Okay.
One of the reasons why we let out tenders for a 3+1+1 is to keep some tension on the contractor to perform with the benefit of attaining those extra years.
But that's where he makes his money, isn't it? The extra years.
Only if he is able to, if we're managing the contract well, which I believe we are, he's...
Okay. All right.
Chairman. All right. Councillor Boddy.
Sure, I might as well have my say on roading. What I find interesting, Mr. Lewis, is the fact that we're asked to put an additional funding of $750,000 to cover additional expenditure over a 3-year period. Now, I wasn't here when the contract was actually done. If it was in July 13, you would have gone through the same standard tendering processes we always do, we go through it. Why would we now want to entertain if Higgins had done due diligence and have underestimated by $750,000, understanding that maybe we have more roads that aren't, as an NTA, covered because we've now inherited them? Would they not have been factored in? Secondly, I take what Councillor Jolins was saying before in regards of reduced costs, particularly with the price of oil, that over a 4-year period, if we take the increase that's been asked for, It's 2.61 million. They're asking for 2.7. And could I also remind you that this was the contractors that did the lakefront footpath, which 76 metres has had to be uplifted. And today, by chance, coming back from the hub, I walked across the street where that crossing is on the corner, and 2 lots of that concrete has already got cracks through it. What I'm really getting to, I won't entertain 750,000, and I believe this will test the market if we take it out for tender again.
Just got a clarification.
Just want to correct a factual inaccuracy there. It was actually Fulton Hogan that were responsible for the lakeside footpath, not Higgins contractors.
Apologise for that then. But you get what I'm saying? The 750 for something that's taken place?
The 750 is, as I explained earlier, is for additional works that were required that we didn't identify at the time we put the tender together. When we put a tender of this size together, we try and assess how many square metres of dig-outs, how many square metres of rehabilitation, those types of activities, how many square metres of reseal we're going to take over the next 3 years. It is a prediction of where we're going to go. What I'm saying is that we didn't get that prediction right. We need to do to the value of 750,000 more work on the roads to maintain them in their current condition. It is not a cost escalation, it is purely more work.
Brought in because we now have a different piece of highway?
That's only part of the story. As I explained earlier, it's also to do with the amount of work that we've been doing on some of our key routes like Broadlands Road and Purepi Road, where councillors have seen for themselves the scope of the work that we've been doing out there.
Councillor Johns.
Just through the chair, your worship, I just need to ask for leave. One of my family members has incurred a head injury and I need to go to A&E and see what's going on.
Get away. Yeah, thanks, Councillor Johns. Okay.
I think what we could also say here is that through successive long-term plans now, we've significantly trimmed the capex budget in the roading area. And you find that where you do trim your capex budget to the tune of, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Dennis, but $60 million or more was removed from capex budgets over previous long-term plans, you inevitably end up spending more on a maintenance budget.
That is correct.
Councillor Christowski.
Totally agree with what the Chief Executive has said. I wonder, however, is that I'm willing to move that, but at the same token, I wonder whether we could signal that we would want to go out to for tender next year. No?
Sorry, Worship, just quickly through your Worship. I think what we'll task Dennis with doing is just finding out what prices are, what's happening with prices in the Waikato and probably the North Island, because there's plenty of tenders out there to be able to gain an assessment of where prices are going, and certainly with that information that we'll provide you, we might be able to decide that yes, it might be appropriate to go out to retender next year, or it may not be. So let's arm you with that information first, and then let's have a discussion down the track as to what possibly might be the right thing to do.
As long as we don't leave it too late.
No, that's right.
I was going to say that's my concern, that because I know how long it takes for new contracts to be built, and we've probably run out of time for this year. But I concur with Bernard to at least look at it early.
I hear what you say, and it's a large sum of money. So let's get that circulated and move forward.
Thanks. Councillor Park.
Yeah, just to add, I'm sort of with Councillor Bernard, but it also just gets me how everything is right down to the last cent, but they just want this rounded figure to the end of the contract this year. Now, as long as you can assure us that that money you think has been expended correctly, appropriately, and efficiently, I'll leave it alone.
I can assure you that. I have got 2 staff members that spend their entire days managing this contract and making sure that what they do is done efficiently, what they do is only what is necessary, and that if they don't do something that is done in the right fashion, that they go back and correct it.
Thank you. Happy to second the resolution.
Thank you very much. Been moved by Councillor Bernard, seconded by Councillor Park. So the recommended resolution, one and
Your Worship,
one and two.
will that be minuted in the minutes?
Yes.
Yeah, that we want to, yep,
had
okay,
some
that's
sense.
fine.
Yep, all right.
Thank you.
Shani, all right? Okay, all those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against?
No. Could I have it recorded, Mr. Chairman?
Certainly. So motion is carried, but dissent recorded from Councillor John Boddy.